In today's vlog, I thought I'd spend a little time talking about my railroad days and what we call slack time. Slack time is when you got nothing to do or your work is all caught up and you're trying to think of something to do to keep yourself occupied. Slack time is something that could lead to some interesting stories. That's what my vlog is about today. I was watching one of Rod's videos recently over at Wally's Place 66, and it made me think of a story. He was talking about at their job, sometimes they didn't have nothing to do, but you had to look like you were doing something, pretend like you're busy about something. And it brings to mind working at the railroad. Over the years I worked at a lot of different jobs. Some of the jobs there's no break time at all. You work steady, like when you're repairing trains or something on the repair train. But there's a lot of jobs came under my category as a carman, and I worked them all from time to time. Working out in the train yards, down in the pit, inspecting trains. There's just no way you could stay busy 24 hours a day. It's not uncommon for train crews driving the train to be asleep. Now, how do you resolve that? How do you explain that? I mean, you paying the man big bucks per hour to do a job, and then you take him out and park him in the siding somewhere to wait for another train. It's a natural assumption you're going to sit there in your chair and fall asleep. There's one railroad here a few years ago that actually granted permission for people to sleep while they're waiting. But it's been going on for years and years at the railroad. I'll give you a couple examples. Let's talk about working in the train yard. Well, once you've inspected a train that came in the train yard, or all the boxes on the friction bearing boxes back when we had those, but once you've walked the trains they got in the yard and you're caught up, meaning there's no more trains to work, you have to sit in a shack and wait till another train comes in to work. Well, we did things like sitting around playing cards, play chess, just sit and talk, but we weren't busy, we just were killing time. There might be 6 of us sitting in a shop, waiting in a shack, waiting to go work a train. With only one train out there and only 2 people are going to go check it, so the foreman to call them up and say, Jones and Parks, go work track 1. Well, them other 4 people get to sit there and sleep, take a nap, whatever they want to do until it's their turn to go. And it was, you know, standard procedure that everybody knew what was going on. You're getting paid so much an hour just for being out there, whether you're actually working or not. I recall, I won't name any names, but from time to time I had to work double shifts. Especially when somebody was marked off sick, they would call the extra board and say, do you want to work 3rd shift tonight? In other words, you'd be working 16 hours instead of 8. Well, you know you're going to be getting time and a half for that 3rd shift. So you call the old lady at home and say, I won't be home tonight, I'm staying to work tonight. And as a result, you get a bigger paycheck at the end of the month. Actually, we got paid every 2 weeks. I recall several different instances. I'll just give you one for example. 3rd shift trains. A lot of times there wasn't a whole lot of trains that came in on a 3rd shift. I recall one night working in the receiving yard, and they asked me if I wanted to stay and work the 3rd shift. I worked the 2nd shift for years. Well, yeah, I'll stay and work. Who am I working with? You working with so-and-so. Well, you almost said his name. Well, we sit there and played a game with cards or something for an hour or 2. And then they said, this train come in track 1. Well, we'll go track 1 and work this train. We walk out in track 1 to inspect this train. One of the jobs was to open the box lids and just checking for any kind of mechanical defects. Well, we walk out there. This man is no longer alive, but I'm still not going to give his name. They eventually made him a general foreman, put him as the person in charge of the whole shift out there. If they only knew. Anyway, they said, go work that track 1. Well, we went out there. I'm prepared to inspect the whole train, just like I did when I was working on the second shift. Well, we get to the caboose, which was the first car we got to in the train. It was down about the middle ways of the train yard. We climb up on the caboose, build a fire in the caboose, sit down and go to sleep. I said, wait a minute, we got to work this train. Oh, I do this every night. We're going to sit right here on this caboose and sleep. So we slept a good 4 or 5 hours. The whole time I'm like a cat in a room full of rocking chairs expecting to get caught. And long about 5 o'clock in the morning, we get up, dust the sleep out of our eyes, and get out and finish working track 1. Well, we really only worked about an hour all night long. Got paid for 8 hours. I was getting paid time and a half. I just felt guilty as hell about doing something like that. It was something that got done regularly out there. This guy was doing it every night. Nobody seemed to care, I guess. But I was kind of self-conscious about always trying to do a good job and do it right. So I felt guilty about doing something like that. But I collected the money. So there are times on the railroad when you don't actually do something. You're just there. You're a presence. If they need you, you're there. I can think of quite a few things that I could mention. It's just a brief summary of some of the things. I'll give you another example. I'm working the caboose track. I worked that for about 3 years, cab track. And my job was to check the cabs and anything needed repair, fix them. Had microfoil toilets. Sometimes the valves had to be adjusted on those. Wow, they're using both sides. I don't believe they finally wised up. Let me pause right here and get rid of this garbage. Well, I had recently been in a tornado on the repair track, and it had tore up my car. A telephone pole bounced off the right front fender, and all the windows were broke out, and it was pulverized with rocks from the train yard. It just looked like a disaster. This car was still drivable. Put new windows in, beat the dents out of the fender, and continued to drive it because I didn't have the whatever kind of insurance you call comprehensive or something that would cover tornado damage on my insurance policy. So I'm stuck with a car that's all tore up. That was a 69 Mercury Montego, whether I mentioned it or not. And I was in the process of sanding on it and putting primer paint and slowly getting it in condition where I could take it to one of these cheap paint shops and get it painted. Well, I'm working on that caboose track. Got caught up, no cabooses to work. This was on the day shift then. And, well, I know what I'll do. I'll go back there and work on my car a little bit. It's parked out there in front of the shack. Well, I'm out there squatting beside the car, sanding the side of a door, spraying some primer paint. The big boss comes by and sees me doing that. Now, what's the difference in me out there working on my car or them guys sitting in the office, in the dining area playing poker? There's no difference. They ain't working, they're just goofing off. I was at least staying busy, even if I was working for myself. He didn't like that. I got some extra duty for that. But it wasn't. Well, this big boss's name was Fred. I won't give his last name. It wasn't 2 months later. I'm back by the big office. There's Fred outside working on his Volkswagen Carmen Ghia. He's got it jacked up and doing a brake job on it or something. I said, wait a minute, ain't this kind of a double standard, Fred? I mean, you punished me for it, but you're out here doing the same damn thing. Just get out of here and leave me alone. Well, anyway, that's just something I was thinking about. Slack time on the railroad could mean anything. I've actually seen people, well, I ain't gonna tell everything, but there was a lot of goofing off going on. I always tried to stay busy as hell. I'd get out and work and work and work and probably leave nothing for the other shift to work. I used to work on the rip track. I'd work, try to outdo everybody, do the most repairs and stuff. Sometimes I'd repair 15, 20 box cars a day, and that was staying busy too. Kicking them down the hill. We have a rabbit system that would push them down the hill. See just how many cars I can knock out today. Back when we had friction bearing cars, journal boxes and lube pads and oil in the boxes. One of the jobs we had to do was a lube job, which was jack up the journal boxes, change the pads, check the brasses, and replace the ones that are wore out. It's a really greasy, nasty job. I learned real quick to go back on my track and see what was coming up back there. And if there was any lube jobs that I didn't want to get involved in, I'd either find me another job to do before that car got to me, or slow down a little bit. There were guys who would actually go back there and change the date on the car so it wouldn't quite be out of date and it would get by without being done properly. But that was dishonest as heck. I didn't try to make a practice or anything like that. I just learned to kind of slow down a little bit so I didn't get that one. But sometimes I got stuck with a nasty job too. Had to do is COT&S, clean oil test and stencil the air brakes. I didn't mind that job so bad. I had to change the brake valves and stuff. And somebody had to take the piston, the air brake piston off and re-grease that. That could be kind of nasty. Repairing trains was a lot more difficult than inspecting them. But I was good at both of them. I can inspect the heck out of a train and tell you just about every moving part that needs repaired. This rain has been coming down all day. Windows all fogged up. I'm almost back at the house now, so I'm going to conclude my vlog for today. Sure wouldn't be a good day to be out videoing any trains. Didn't get anything on the Mega Millions last night. Maybe tonight I'll get the Powerball. Maybe I'll get lucky. That's all for my vlog today. This is Pwalpar checking out.